And so my question to you is, as a therapist who has sessions with these people, how do you, without using chemical castration, or do you use chemical castration, how do you put these people back into society with a certain assuredness that they won't ever offend, and it's just a personal affliction that will never cause anyone else ever any harm? And secondly, how do you tally that responsibility? Because for you, I must imagine that must weigh so heavily to go home and to think, Christ, I've just spoken to Bob, and I'm really not sure if Bob can actually manage this. How do you do that?
Excellent questions. First, let me tweak the phrase you used. These aren't, sending people back into society. The ones who come to me, now in a private clinic, are the ones who, they never were in jail. They never, committed a crime. They are coming to me specifically for help, dealing with the stresses that are associated with. In the research end of my career, that was specifically within, a forensic department of psychiatry, working with people who were offenders. So I've run the gamut. The situation, though, you're asking, talking to a person, helping them deal with it, again, those are really, those are not offenders. Those are people, I was about to say working the hardest not to offend, but the ones who come into me, that's not really the question. They're not, anywhere close to what I would even call a borderline. The situation, usually the emotional state that they come in with, I don't get people coming in expressing trouble controlling themselves. That's not the issue. They come in having depression and anxiety, having difficulty dealing with the loneliness and the isolation that's associated with it. That's what they're coming in. It's because they're not in contact with a community of peers. They can't tell their friends. They can't tell their parents. So if they happen to be, in Toronto, they're in the one city, having done exactly the same kind of search that you did, finding, oh my God, there is somebody who understands that, not every person attracted to children acts on it. Oh my God, they're in my city. Or these days we're doing everything online, so anywhere in the province. So those are the ones coming to me. So as I say, it's not really a question of putting them back in society. The ones seeing me are already in society, and the ones not seeing me are also already in society. Now, they're already for doing what you were hinting to is what we call a formal risk assessment. And that is indeed, part of a clinician's and a licensed expert's job is that if the difference between when I do need to call the police or whatever the appropriate authority is, this is part of the legitimate part of mandatory reporting. I am not required to report because somebody is attracted to children. I'm required to report when I have reasonable basis to believe that there is a child in need of protection. So if this guy, is on the border of actually doing something, I am, and I will, I am required to report that, and that is perfectly appropriate. But that's not the situation with which people come in, with which people come into me within a private practice setting. In public hospitals, where people who have committed offenses and are therefore at an elevated risk, to commit new offenses, those, again, we have formal ways of calculating the probabilities, large groups of people of various characteristics followed up, and we get to see which characteristics predict, the greatest probability of future offenses. Now, of course, I'm well trained in that, and I am competent and therefore confident, in making such predictions. But bottom line is, sooner or later, how does anybody, any psychologist, any licensed mental health professional deal with any of that? That's part and parcel of the responsibility that we have, and why we require the kind of training that we do. Is that that is part of it. Now, again, in private practice, people are self-filtered. These are people, with jobs, educations, insurance that, that cover psychotherapy and so on, which is different from people who are under the care of psychiatrists and public healthcare systems, under the medical systems in hospitals, which are people who usually have fewer resources and are in more dire straits to begin with. With those, the risk is higher. It is interesting to note, important to note. Of the people who commit offenses, again, they're the ones most likely to commit new offenses, 10 to 15%. Once a person is apprehended for having committed a sex offense, comparatively few, as I say, 10 to 15% will commit new such offenses. There's a small number of, psychopathic serial offenders. Those are the dangerous ones. For the others, they're more, people who were tempted, slipped, and, once smacked with the system, oh my God, what did I do? And are actually very unlikely to do it again. The lesson that I wish most of mental health would learn, and policymakers probably, policymakers too, or often the same group of people. People do the most desperate things when they feel the most desperate. But rather than help them deal with that desperation, we just keep passing laws that increase their desperation. We just keep cutting them off from the kind of things that, as I say, would put them in contact with competent clinicians, wherever those clinicians may be, or cut them off from communication on Twitter or the websites you're mentioning. I will mention two websites. One, two community groups of people who, they're anonymous, but they, again, acknowledge their attractions to children. I'm going to mention these two mostly to contrast them. The one that I like and I endorse over and over again, all over the place. I send people, contacts from all over the world who get in touch with me. The Virtuous Pedophiles.
That's the one that I saw. Yeah.
VIRPED.
That's what
VIRPED.org. I cannot endorse them, strongly enough. These are people, as I say, are aware, acknowledge their sexual interests, and support each other in not committing offenses. They, as I say, I've gotten to meet many of them, mostly electronically, and they are exactly what they say they are. And there have now been, they are now actually a source of research data. As other scientists have now, started recognizing this population and saying, oh, we can study pedophilia from the non-offenders, now adding to what we know about people who were recruited from forensic institutions, so now we're getting to see what's general to pedophilia and what is, specific to criminality and so on, or stress and so on.
Yeah.
So that group, I heartily endorse, and they have very, very strict rules, and they take them very, very seriously about no contact with children, no circulation of inappropriate material and so on. They're serious. They're the real deal. And they're also very well policed. I'm not worried about their websites coming under attack. There's another group that I don't refer people to called Before You Act. Now, they actually precede by many years the VIRPED community, the VIRPED group. The reason that I don't endorse Before You Act the way that I endorse VIRPED is because the Before You Act basic philosophy, the philosophy of the founders, is much cagier. Rather than coming out and saying, no, child molestation is wrong, period, zero tolerance, like the VIRPEDs do, the Before You Act is cagey about, whether they would like the age of consent reduced. Rather than having a policy for it, it's before you act, know what the local laws are. So there's much more of a, we can't say it out loud, but wink, wink.
Swirly.
Right. So I can't say that there's any particular philosophy about any particular person, and I don't want to generalize to every member of it. But as I say, I can and I do very strongly get behind VIRPED. Before You Act, no, that I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. Dr. James, I wonder if you could clear up something. I was speaking to some friends, my girlfriend, we were talking about, there's kind of, it seems like there's two routes here. If you recognize you're a pedophile and you want to go treat it, I was going to say, but manage it, I should say better. And it kind of felt like there's the therapy route and then there's the chemical castration route. And and this is just through public discourse, I came across, and this is kind of my own understanding until I researched a bit more, that kind of chemical castration, the best way I could put it, without researching into it, it felt like it was, well, if you like steaks, It's kind of like, we'll make you impotent, but you'll still have the same like. So it's like, we'll take away your hunger, but you're still going to like steaks, but you're never hungry enough to eat them. But you still, when you see them on the plate, you're like, oh, that's a beautiful steak. And it kind of felt like that was it. And then I researched more, and I was like, maybe that's not the case. But I just wanted to clear up with you. Chemical castration, does it work? What is it? How does it work?
Chemical castration is a very dramatic term. I think it probably would be more descriptive, more accurately descriptive, as if we spoke more generally about sex drive reducing medication.